The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Okay, and here we are. Another Thursday already. It's the 11th of December, moving right along. First hour tonight, Gerald Celente. What more can you say than we've said before? Trends Journal. History before it happens. I'm looking at a PDF here right now. This is an extra. It's a special edition, so to speak, our 2015 forecast. First look at the critical trends that will affect you, and I mean all of you. I don't care where you're listening around the world. Most of these things will have a ripple effect, whether it's tiny or large, depends on where you are and what you're doing, but trends are trends, and we are in a planet now that is a very small little teacup, relatively speaking, compared to what it was 100, 150 years ago. Hello, Gerald. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me back.
Always my pleasure. How hard was it to look ahead? And I say that because we are being deluged constantly with unbelievable amounts of deceit, deception, fraud, negligence, egomaniacal lunatics killing people halfway around the world in our name, in the name of democracy. Manipulations everywhere you look. Were the muddy waters difficult to decipher and decode? How tough was it?
Well, on some areas it's really difficult, particularly when you look at the economy. You know, all this behind the scenes.
As we speak, they're trying right now to hammer out this $1 trillion budget, I guess.
Well, you know, that's part of it, but the other thing is when you start looking, like, for example, you know, we would have thought this thing would have collapsed a long time ago. And then all of a sudden they'll shoot out a QE, you know, quantitative easing. You ever heard of that one?
It's like they change an IV drip on a dying patient.
Yeah, and then they'll do 1, 2, and 3. And then you find out that the LIBOR rate, you know, the interest rates are rigged. I mean, this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. And then you were talking, by the way, around $700 trillion. That's right, $700 trillion.
TT, yes.
Yeah. And then you look at the Forex. And what's that? Well, that's the currency markets, and they're running about $5.3 trillion a day. Not making it up, they're rigged. It's a fact. And then you look at how they're rigging the markets with these record low interest rates.
Oh, yeah.
This is unprecedented in modern history.
Did you mention gold also? Fraudulent as it could possibly be.
Yeah, matter of fact, one of the top trends we have is the grand manipulation. And by the way, that was it's written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who, of course, was the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. And we're looking at, he writes extensively. how they're shorting gold with the paper trades when the markets are trading very thinly, like the day after Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden, as soon as the markets open up, zap, they're dumping tons of gold on the market, shorting it. And then you look at the other areas where, well, as I was mentioning, interest rates. Do you realize the Fed has not raised interest rates since 2006, and now we're going into 2015.
9 years. You got to be kidding.
Nope.
That's hard to believe.
I know.
Wow. Now that's how could that sneak under the radar of all these economic pundits who are all over the mainstream media with their pretty faces or ugly faces flapping their gums, and nobody says that. I would not have bet that. That's amazing.
That's a fact. So when we're looking at what's going on, the manipulation behind the scenes is beyond what anybody could dream. And it's not only here. Look what they did over there in Japan with Abenomics. The first round of their quantitative easing was the equivalent in GDPs of 4 times ours. And then that failed. They're in a recession. And you looked at their September quarter GDP, third quarter GDP.
Yeah.
It was down 7.2%. So what do they do with? I got an idea. We'll double up on it. So they do. They double up on it, and they now it's the equivalent in GDP terms of would be like the Federal Reserve pumping out $3 trillion a year.
Wow.
So it's the grand manipulation.
Yeah, and the great Japanese electorate just gave Abe an overwhelming endorsement and reelected the guy. How are they going to survive this? Their economy is in recession. They're covered with radiation. I guess they're going to try and misdirect people by talking about the Olympics are coming. We're wonderful. Everything is all well and good. No, everything is not all well and good. And they're going to hold the Olympics right there in Tokyo Bay, much of them, where they're dumping this radioactive ash from all these huge municipal incineration plants. I mean, it is really crazy, Gerald. Crazy.
I know. Well, the world is crazy. I mean, you look at the leaders of the world, and it's a freak show. And we write
is
about
it ever?
That as well.
Oh, perfect word. Perfect.
Name the look. Let's just look at home. How can any self-respecting person look up to a Pelosi, a Feinstein, a McConnell, or a Lindsey Graham, an Obama, or a Bush, or a Clinton? And what are we going to have again as we go into 2016? Another Clinton and another Bush. And then you go around the world. Abe, Angela Merkel, little boy Fonzie Renzi over there in Italy, Hollande. I mean, it's a joke.
Hollande has already had scandals, several, and who's making a comeback in Vive la France? But the little dwarf himself. The little Sarko is coming back. He's leading the opposition in France. It is a freak show. It is a carousel of freaks.
It's freaks. They're freaks.
Round and round it goes.
And then what happens, Jeff, is that the people argue, my freak is better than your freak, and my freak is less of a freak than your freak. We'll call it a lesser of two evil freaks. Now, they'll argue. They'll fight with each other.
Oh, yeah.
And Sarkozy, by the way, that's the little slimy guy that pushed for the overthrow of Gaddafi. And you see what a wonderful time they're having over there in Libya, since our Nobel Peace Prize winner, piece of crap, they should call it, launched along with Hillary Clinton, Samantha Powers, and Susan Rice.
Don't forget Valerie.
Yep, pushed for the overthrow of Gaddafi. We're going to have a humanitarian mission. We're going to save those people. Yeah, just like, remember the humanitarian mission against, we're going to save those Christians on the mountain in Iraq and them Yazidis. We're not going to go in there. No, it's not going to be any more war. No. This is a humanitarian mission, boys and girls.
What we have seen in the last 20 years is really astounding when you think about it. It's over the top. We've seen this country and its handlers go in and literally destroy modern, beautiful, well-functioning, intelligent, wise, economically sound countries. Afghanistan, perhaps last. Certainly, Gaddafi's Libya was a shining example of what a leader can do for his people with its natural resources. That country's loaded. And then Iraq, the biggest and most tragic example of all. And how many people have you folks who live over here in the U.S., formerly U.S., killed? 5 to 6 million human beings. A true Holocaust. This is just out of sight. It's unbelievable. And everyone, Gerald, is so desensitized by the freak show that they don't look like freaks to them anymore. They don't notice. Now, it's not everybody. Your readers are different. Okay, my listeners, I hope, are all different. But my God, the average person, they don't know anything. I asked I got to say one more thing. I asked a very intelligent man, a retired doctor. I said, what do you know about the status of Fukushima? And he looked at me and he said, what is that?
Yep.
He didn't know. He didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be the first to tell you if you haven't heard. Orcas, killer whales, they're dying. They will be extinct all along the Pacific West Coast here within the next 3 years. There's not one orca baby whale that has been born since 3/11 that has lived beyond a year of age. They're on the way out. They're all emaciated. They're not acting right. They don't call out at night and talk to each other. They're dying. The whole West Coast is dying. You don't hear a goddamn thing about it in the mainstream media. Nothing.
Nothing. And you know what the big story, of course, is that Sony was hacked. You know, everybody knows about that.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll know about what they said about Angela Jolie, whatever her name is. And, you know, they'll know about junk like that. And like you said, they don't know of Fukushima.
And they're over here on the West Coast. They're breathing it in low levels. They're inhaling it. They're drinking it. They're eating it. You see Berkeley over 2 years ago stopped putting out their monthly reports on the topsoil, on the fruits, on the vegetables, on the air, on the water, because the graph kept going up and up and up and up. And the effluent from Fukushima is expected to keep coming for at least 100 years. At least 100 years. Doesn't that mean it's not
totally out of the news?
Never hear a
Totally
damn
out.
nothing. Oh, and here's another thing. I'm sure somebody saw this at your place. It was a little story. One day, the Associated Press, the granddaddy of all American news agencies, said, we will no longer be reporting on suspected cases of Ebola in the United States because we don't want to foster panic. So they censored the damn news. You don't hear about Ebola anymore. It's still every bit as insanely ravaging and out of control in Sierra Leone and Liberia than it ever was. You don't hear a word about it. And I'll tell you another secret, folks, and I'll shut up. There are at least 2 and probably 3, and Dr. Patricia Doyle has found this out by tracking them. CDC leased jets. These are smaller jets, like corporate jets. They're BSL level 4 air ambulances, specifically built and constructed, and I have pictures of them on my site on a link, to move Ebola patients around. And where has Patty tracked these planes flying from and to? Over to Africa and back to Georgia. Over to Africa and back to Washington. Over to Africa and back to Omaha. They're bringing Ebola dying patients into the U.S. and not telling anybody. Non-citizens. They're here. It's all tracked. So anyway, Gerald, that's just, you do this so well. I just wanted to throw a couple other things in that nobody knows about, and they're not going to know about them unless we tell them.
Yeah, and again, we're saying that 2015 is a game changer year. We could be at war at this time next year, considering where they're leading us to. And what is this new Senate bill that they're voting on, or the new congressional bill? They're something like $64 billion to keep fighting the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan under the guise of we're going to wipe out those ISIS. I keep telling people, if you want to get into a business, it's very cheap to get into, and it has great results. And it doesn't have to be good at all. It's propaganda. Propaganda is the business to get into. You could come up with any 2-bit line you want, and you can sell it really well. And the people buy it and swallow it. And this whole ISIS thing. And who's ISIS? And, you read the information coming out. Well, these are people that they threw in jail when the United States invaded Iraq, the Sunnis. And they tortured them, and they got out. And what do they have? They have a country that's totally destroyed, over 1 million people killed. There is absolutely no future. You think they're angry? Oh, no. And again, you look at the hypocrisy. Don't behead anyone. Oh, you're evil. But bombs away. As you mentioned, several million killed between the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Afghan War, the longest war in American history, the Iraq War, Libyan War. Oh, not going to call Libya a war. What can we call it? Oh, that was a humanitarian mission.
It's a rehabilitation.
Yeah. So, when you look at where things are going, it's going, and the forecast is that Einstein's forecast may come to pass. I don't know how World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Look, we are sitting literally on the threshold, on a doorstep, on a porch, or on a stoop of a war, a major war, certainly in Ukraine, and from there it could spread anywhere. What's going on in Ukraine is Ratsenyuk and Poroshenko, the two puppets are in there now. The rat today said that we will not make it through the winter unless we get financial aid. They're in trouble. They have this massive army built up in the east ready to roll through all the way to the Russian border to kill as many Russian-speaking peoples, men, women, and children, as they can. They're stuck there. They've got no money. So what do you do when you're broke? You usually start a war. That's what countries do. And then they get all of a sudden aid and help from their supporters who want to manipulate things through their bloodshed. You watch. They are pushing. Have you ever seen anything like what the Western media has been doing to Putin, pushing the bear?
Oh, again, we outlined this in the Trends Journal a year ago. We showed how they used the Sochi Olympics was the setup. You remember they were killing all those stray dogs over there. Don't get on that airplane to Sochi. I'm warning you. We have officials. They're anonymous. We can't tell you who they are. But watch out for those toothpaste bombs. You remember that. Remember what I'm saying about propaganda. You can make up something as stupid, as shallow and hollow as a toothpaste bomb.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes the news and people swallow it.
Shoe bomb,
don't forget,
underwear bomb, toothpaste bomb. Yeah, of course.
They kept on going. Don't drink the water, that yellow water. And boy, did they hate homosexuals over there in Sochi. And they got rid of all those homeless people. And look at those hotels. What shabby job they did. It was one day of propaganda after another. Did it work? Yes, it did. The day before the Olympics opened, the polls showed Americans looked at Russia at their lowest point since 1994. And this is without Ukraine heating up.
Well, another sad testimonial.
So they set it all up. Yeah. The propaganda mill was running. And then you mentioned about Ukraine being in trouble. First of all, nearly 5,000 civilians have been killed. Not hardly a word, nothing. It's as absent as Fukushima from the news. And when they do mention it, they never say who has been killed. It's the Eastern Ukrainians. Number two on that. A year ago to the date almost, I think it was either the 12th to 13th, at the Washington Press Club, Victoria Nuland, the Assistant Secretary of State.
Vicky, yes.
Vicky. The wife of, who's that crazy guy, Robert?
Strange.
Kagan?
Strange. One of the Kagans, I think, yeah.
Yep, the guy with the neocon.
Yep.
She is at the National Press Club. Anybody could go to Google, look it up. Brought to you, and there she is over her left shoulder is a sign of Chevron, over her right Exxon. And
I remember that picture. Didn't you run it?
Yes, we did. We did a whole story on it. And there she is talking about, now you were talking about the financial problems. There should be none in Ukraine because she said that the future of Ukraine is with the European Union and the path set forth by the International Monetary Fund. So they took the course. They're on the path. I can't understand why things are bad. She said it would all work out.
$5 billion over 5 years. Do you remember? The phone call? Everyone does. I'm talking to Gerald about to our listeners here, but you and I think I might even have played it on this program. Yeah, I never heard a word about that from her husband, little Bobby Kagan. She is really a dirtbag, and she is a killer.
Well, they're all dirtbags.
Of course.
I mean, don't single her out. Look at the new guy they're pulling in for the Secretary of Defense.
Oh yeah.
You want a little
again,
dirtbag?
Sam.
And every one of the media, you know what they talk about? How brilliant he is. They know he's brilliant. He is brilliant.
That's their line. See, I don't listen to them.
He's brilliant.
I can't stand him.
He's an intellectual.
Oh, an intellectual neocon. I see.
Again, you hear me say it all the time. 6 words have killed America. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. That's
Perfect.
Their business.
Yeah.
That's all these people are. Every one of them. Harvard, Princeton, Yale. A lot of people with a bad attitude, arrogant, and think they're better than everybody else. And they are. Because they run our lives, and the people don't fight back. They bow down, suck up, and take it.
It's unbelievable. You really ought to, if any of you have missed the Vicky Nuland story, it's worth taking a moment to go to YouTube. We have to take a break here and look up Vicky's phone call. You'll find it easily. What a couple. Bobby Kagan, her husband, the son of Jewish scholar Donald Kagan, Sterling Professor of Classics and History at Yale University. Do you get it? You heard Gerald, didn't you? That's where all these creeps come from. All right, hold on. We'll be right back. Trends. Okay, back with Gerald. All right, what's your call on immigration? He hasn't actually signed the executive order yet. People are acting as if he has. Obviously, the Republicans I don't want to call them what they should be called, are bending over backwards, forwards, and sideways to work together. We're being sold out, left, right, center. The whole political continuum is nothing but a betrayal. And where do you see the immigration situation here in 6 months, 5 months, 3 months? Where's it going?
I don't know, but what they're going to. The latest poll that came out shows only 36% of the people that support the immigration bill, and 60% opposed. And but why should they do anything that we want?
Exactly.
And again, I've been writing about this since I've been in 1989, my first big book, Trend Tracking. Far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. I was writing about the immigration issue and who was behind it. And then, of course, in Trends 2000, and showing in detail how the more illegal aliens came into the country, immigrants, and the more immigration happened, the lower wages went. And the big pushers behind it in the earlier years when we used to have a thing called manufacturing was the National Association of Manufacturers to bring in cheap labor.
Sure.
And even reports coming out from, of all people, the Council on Foreign Affairs was even showing the dangers of mass immigration coming into the country and how it would drive down wages. And that's all it is. And then, of course, the Silicon Valley people pushing it like Zuckerberg is with his billions because they want to bring in more people with H-1B visas so they could pay them a fraction of what they have to pay our people.
Yeah. He's in China. Apparently the Chinese haven't taken to his Zuckerberg charm either.
And again,
another freak for the carousel of freaks. You ought to have some artists do that, and just many freaks as you can put on heads that you can see on the carousel going round and around. And
so when you look at it and where it's going, they could care less. And to keep bringing these people into the country when we can't take care of our own is an atrocity.
May I suggest one thing? When we won't take care of our own.
When we won't take care of our own. Look what happened in Detroit last week. The electricity went out.
Yeah.
And they have $64 billion to go fight ISIS.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
We won't do it. We have mandated that the best medical care that this country can conjure up has to be given to illegal immigrants from any country above Americans.
Yeah, so again...
Now, that's suicide.
Yeah, it's suicide, and we have the suicide squad that's running the show. Again, look at you. How could they bring back Cheney shooting his mouth off about what a lot of crap, used to his words, this report is about the torture from this, and they actually quote this guy?
Yep.
He should be brought up on war crime charges.
Yep. They should take away his...
And they all suck up to him and bow down, one after another. There's one sicko after another. And the immorality right in front of our eyes, and people arguing about it. So, again, nothing is going to change, I believe, until, more morality, integrity, and spirituality play a part again. When you look at the CIA and you see what's going on, what a surprise! Look at the war crimes being committed by the country. The CIA is only another element of it, and then it filters down to the militarized police.
Yeah. Oh,
so the fish rots from the head down, and we got Mr. Drones away, and we had before him Bush, and before him Clinton. How many more mass murderers do you have to put in the White House before you call a mass murderer a mass murderer? What is the problem? How come people can't call it what it is? They are mass murderers. Quote, I'm really good at killing people, Obama. I didn't say that. He said that.
It just really leaves you scratching your head as to how much more desensitized to life our population can become. I'm talking about all life, from political life to economic life to social life. I mean, they're just a bunch of drooling, consuming idiots, and they've been created.
Look at the video games, the violence in them. Are you saying that there's a link between grotesque violence on video games and because it's become a video game war? Don't they see it? What do you think? It's different with drones? Bombs away? These are bringing video games to life. What do they train these guys on? They train them with these video games.
The actual same programmers who do the video work for training in the military are hired by the companies to make video games for what we used to call children. Here's another thing. If you've watched TV lately, you need to understand that the level of penetration into your subconscious has never been more profound. They are using everything in the book. And I mean everything. John Rappaport wrote an article today about the hypnotic use of color in television news. It's an excellent piece. I've got it posted, and you ought to read it. Colors can do amazing things to the human psyche and mind, and do. And it's a researched. It's not a guessing game. It's not a projection like what if, let's try to. It is absolutely a complete science. And nothing is done about it because the people just don't get it. And they can't get it. I don't blame them, Gerald. I don't fault them. They haven't really had much of a chance. I'm not talking about your readers or our listeners here tonight. I'm talking about the masses who look at a television set that is pouring into their subconscious mind colors, the most bright colors, beautiful colors. They're sedatives is what they are, and then they hit you with the words, and then they hit you with the music, then they hit you with the visual camera angles and the swish pans and the zooms and the reverse zooms. It's no contest, nolo contendere.
Yep. Anyway, one of the things I remember the last time we were on, or a couple of times I've been on, I kept yelling about oil.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a big one. And people say, was this a plot to hurt Putin? No, it's bigger than that, because when you look at where U.S. crude now is below $59 a barrel, it's much bigger than that. It's a deflationary spiral.
And not yes, absolutely. I'm not going there accidentally. It's been taken there. This is war on Russia, war on Putin, to a large degree. There are other factors involved, and it's not necessarily good for anybody. But we ordered the Saudis to turn the tap on to take the price of oil down, because that would try, in the minds of the controllers, try the Russians' patience to the max. And it is. They are literally now, 24 hours a day, planning to reinvent their entire economy. It's fascinating to watch. India, China, hell, they don't really need Europe. They don't need the West. So it's backfiring all over the place. We will be right back with Gerald. Hold on. Okay, and we're back. Just a couple of notes about what you're looking at. I watched television for the first time not too long ago in years. Couldn't believe the visuals. Not the camera angles, not the movement, Gerald, but the colors. The colors were coming off of a palette. This is HD stuff. So vivid and so bright, they were mesmerizing. Now, John Rappaport wrote an article today. I'm just going to read a little bit of it if you don't mind, because it does point out something I want all of you who watch television to take note of. He says, some people would call it simply an effort to please the audience. Well, pleasing the audience during a national news broadcast isn't the objective, unless ratings and viewer numbers and ad revenues and distraction from facts is actually the plan. And, of course, it is. Just now I forced myself to watch a rebroadcast of Wednesday night's NBC News with their golden boy, Brian Williams. But Brian wasn't golden. He was blue, which happens to people, and it happens to also be people's favorite color in television news and in multiple surveys. Restful, calming, blue. Here is what I saw in the first 5 minutes. I couldn't handle anymore. I urge you to go in at NBC, at their site, and take a look for yourself. Brian was wearing a blue suit. All the backgrounds for captions were blue. Small screens behind Brian were blue. Brian's desk panels were blue. The surface of the desk reflected vague tints of blue. The lead story, the CIA torture report, featured blue in the CIA seal. Andrea Mitchell, who was covering the report's release, was wearing a dark blue outfit. Behind her, the Capitol dome sat in a blue sky. A psychologist named Mitchell, an architect of the torture program, was interviewed. His shirt was partly blue, and he was wearing blue jeans, of course. The NBC reporter interviewing him was wearing a light blue shirt. A map of the world appeared on screen, sitting in a field of blue. Behind Andrea, the background was filled with objects of different blues. Reporter Dana Priest was interviewed for the story. A piece of the background behind her was blue. Michael Hayden was interviewed. He was wearing a blue suit. All right, enough. You get the picture? This is all staged. All of it. Nothing is left to happenstance. It's all scripted, all staged. And it's effective. It works.
Yep. And it's not, that's part of it, but it's really much bigger than that.
Way bigger. That's just a little icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's just a really.
But I'm trying to make a point that they don't miss anything. Okay,
No.
It's cover to cover manipulation.
Yeah. Anyway, I was talking about oil, and it's bigger than oil. You're looking at commodities from corn to copper. You go up and down the list, iron ore, a ton of reinforcement rod in China is cheaper than a ton of cabbage. So there's oversupply of product around.
Say that again. A ton of rebar.
A ton of like rebar, reinforcement rod.
Yeah,
is cheaper in China than a ton of cabbage. That's how much oversupply there is. So when you're looking at these oil prices, this is bigger. This is yes, there is more supply on the market. Demand is down across the board. And again, one commodity after another. And you're looking at the commodity, the resource-rich nations are all taking a hit, with their currencies, whether it's Brazil, Australia. If China's not manufacturing, they're not selling. And if we're not buying and the Europeans aren't buying, the Chinese aren't making. So this is very serious. And that when you talk about a depression, that's what a depression is. It's not only people out of work, it's depressed prices. And that's what we're moving into. It's really serious. You're looking now, as I mentioned, with oil prices, you have West Texas at $59 as we're speaking. Mm. They can't make money pumping this stuff out in a lot of areas. And what you have, Jeff, is some 25% of all of the junk bonds out there are from this energy boom. So figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This thing is huge. And when you go back to the crash of 87, this is what happened just before it. You saw an unwinding of oil prices. So oil, people, you can say, this or that. No, it's more than oil. It's copper, it's rebar, it's wheat, it's corn. It's one after another. There's a global slowdown. And now the morons, the imbeciles, the psychopaths and sociopaths declaring war on Russia, and they have with sanctions. Sanctions are an act of war. Anybody forget about World War II with Japan? Cutting them off from natural resources, oil, rubber, things they needed. They were doing the same thing. Japan was devaluing their yen and exporting more and undercutting other players in the market, so they paid for it. And I'm not saying the Japanese weren't doing dirty deals either. I'm just saying that was part of it. So what do? Europe is already in a terrible slowdown. You saw what happened to the Greek markets this week. On Tuesday, the damn thing was down. The market was down 12%.
Yeah.
8% yesterday.
That's
so
fine.
one after another. So what do? I got an idea. Let's make it worse. Let's put sanctions on one of our big trading partners, the Russians, so that we could even make conditions worse than they are. And that's what they're doing. So now you have a situation where these oil prices go much lower. You're going to start seeing some real shakeouts hitting on Wall Street. I think, just as the Bloomberg came out yesterday, $550 billion worth of debt in just, sectors within the oil industry. And it's junk. It's junk bonds.
Just like the derivatives. With
Exactly.
that new law, Gerald, will force the American taxpayer to bail out the quadrillions in derivatives when that fraud eventually falls.
That's right. They put them right alongside our FDIC. Yep, it's insurance. They could, all they do is put it on the bank, and that's one of our top trends. Bankism. It was written by Nomi Prinz and myself. We came up with the term. It's not capitalism. It's bankism.
Oh, I love it.
Banks have taken over, and you just said it. It's that now we're being held responsible for their losses. 4 words kill capitalism. Too big to fail. It's bankism. And so that's one of our top trends as well.
Yeah.
And I want to mention too, Jeff,
go ahead.
that we had a conference here in Colonial Kingston last Saturday, when we announced the top trends of 2015, and we have a 5.5 hour video of the conference. So if people go to our website, if they want to see in depth the trends that we're forecasting, and what a remarkable audience with really intelligent questions that participated as well, they could go to our website, trendsresearch.com, go to the conference page, and they could look up
great.
and key
That's wonderful.
into.
So
it's a real first class presentation
you
in terms of the production value and everything else.
Yeah. So you put it in the public domain. It's out there. Everybody can participate. I would like all of you. I haven't seen it. I'm going to try and get there and take a good look, because the way Gerald does things is so classy, and Kingston is such a beautiful place. I'll bet the whole aroma, the intellectual aroma, was fascinating to be there.
We had 3 conferences this year, and every one of them, the people that attend them, the camaraderie, the like-minded people, the discussions, the information, because one of the things we're talking about also, one of the top trends for 2015 is takeover. And we're talking about these trade deals. They're not trade deals at all. Trans-Pacific partnerships and on and on. These aren't trade deals. These are deals where multinationals are going to be writing the laws and making the laws. And so I start talking about it, all of a sudden, the information coming out from other people in the audience. Oh my God! I mean, it was astounding, the new information that I'm learning about from the people that are also attending. So it was really a great group of people.
Nice. Okay. Tell our folks how to get subscription. Give a little pitch here we need to do so we keep people updated. Trendsresearch.com.
Trendsresearch.com. Top trends. We just came out with them this week to our subscribers. And it's history before it happens.
Yeah.
You're going to read in this what you'll see making the news tomorrow. And again, and also we have one on energy. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. As energy is collapsing, mm-hmm. you're going to start seeing something filling the vacuum. It's not going to be an alternative energy. It's going to be a dominant energy. Just like horse and carriages they're gone, and the automobile or ice, there used to be the Iceman and refrigeration. Fossil fuels is going to go that way as well. And that's going to also change the geopolitics of the world. So it's written by Ben Davis, one of the top science writers in the country, if not the world.
Well, it sounds fascinating, and I'm sure that it is being passed around the hallowed halls of Congress surreptitiously, if nothing else, to try to make these imbeciles at least sound intelligent. You've seen your work pirated all over the place, like people send me my stories all the time. Have you seen this? Yeah, I read it last night. So you get the same thing. It's great. Thank you. Always just great to have you, Gerald. You take care. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you. Bon Natale. Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
and Happy New Year. Talk to you next year.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye now.
Good night. All right, we'll be right back with hour number 2. Stand by.